All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of the It's a Raptors Ting podcast. This is your host who knows the most, the scholar baller himself, and we're going to get started with episode 10 entitled The Preseason Debut. Honestly, with this preseason debut, asterisk included, but I'm happy with what I saw. I mean, ultimately, it is the preseason, so definitely have to take it with a grain of salt. However, I like what I like, and I like what I saw. And what I mean by that is largely, for the most part, I love how the Raptors coach Darko Rajakovic went with the starting five that I suggested that they should go with back in episode 9. Click the link for episode 9 and check that out, the top 5 and the 6. But yeah, they basically went with that starting five of Schroeder, Anunoby, Barnes, Siakam, and Pirtle. The only difference, according to the statistical recordings, is that instead of starting Scotty Barnes at small forward, they had him starting at shooting guard. But ultimately, it's ostensively my starting lineup. I don't want to sound too egotistical, but it's ostensibly the starting lineup that I foreshadowed and that I foresaw coming. I mean, if you think about it, your wing players are pretty interchangeable. And hey, like, I'm sure during the course of a basketball game, you're going to have multiple iterations and multiple times wherein you'll have OG and Scotty switch on various matchups. So it's not really too much of a stretch to have Scotty at the 2. But nonetheless, this is the starting lineup ostensibly that I wanted to see out there on the floor. And just looking at, the total points, like, it seems like OG Anunoby's getting his looks. He had the second most points at 14 with 20 minutes of play. And the first amount of points was scored by Scotty Barnes with 15 points with 17 minutes at play. So definitely a dynamic wing pairing there. Ultimately, I'm happy with what I saw. Oh, actually, slight correction. Just I couldn't forget about Gary Trent Jr. He actually had the most points for the Raptors, coming off the bench at 22 points with 20 minutes of play. So the points order is Gary Trent first, Scotty Barnes second, and OG Anunoby third. And I like what I saw. I mean, this is the perfect starting lineup. I'm not going to spend too much time elaborating on that because I really did what I really foresaw this coming in last week's episode. But I'd like to really touch on some of the things that I saw from the Raptors bench. Ultimately, it's super early, and I shouldn't really be saying all of this, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The bench mob commission, the Raptors bench mob commission, might be back in town, and they might be ready to take over. I mean, I really like Gary Trent Jr. coming off the bench for this team. I think, and again, I think Gary Trent Jr. last night, he played with a little more pep in his step, and he played like, he had a little something to prove, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he played with like that little bit of extra grit to just kind of be like, hey, this is my starting or not, but this is my position on the team, rather. I might have been taken out of the starting lineup, but I'm gonna be that sixth man, who is up there in terms of like getting his number called, right? So, he's definitely not trying to have his minutes usurped by any of the young guys, any of the new guys that are brought in uh, as per the previous offseason. Gary Trent Jr. is definitely determined to maintain some semblance of pecking order. And this is good. Ultimately, when you think about a basketball team, you can't have a bunch of comfortable guys. I mean, and what I mean by like, you can't be too comfortable. At the end of the day, it's very important to have that healthy internal competition so that your top bench guys, they know that these minutes aren't just guaranteed. They gotta go out there and they gotta perform, right? And that's how you incentivize depth within the construction of a roster for a bench, right? And Chris Boucher was looking great as well. I like the fact that it seems as though Chris Boucher, I mean, sure, he did play a little bit of five, but off the bench, but that's largely, in my view, that's largely because of Coloco's injury. Um, I'm definitely anticipating that Boucher coming off the bench will probably be either a wing or a power forward at most. So he'll either be one of the wings coming off the bench or a power forward. And that's really where we'd like to utilize Boucher. I think last year with Chris Boucher, um, he sort of got lost in the sauce when it came to the rotation, and the minutes that he was getting off the bench, them expecting him to be a 4 or a 5 exclusively, that's not really his style. He's definitely more of a lankier player who likes to have the freedom to kind of be on the perimeter in various times. And I felt like what I saw last night, Rajakovic is really working him into that role of either coming off the bench and being a wing or coming off the bench and being a 4. And like I said, I do recall him playing a bit of 5 off the bench, but I think that's largely due to the fact that, Coloco, who would have otherwise been our backup center, is not there. And then you also have Precious Achua. He did not play last night, from off the top of my memory from watching that game. And shout out to Jalen McDaniels. Definitely a welcome surprise. Um, I'm gonna get into the topic that I feel as though that people are really waiting for right now. And I'm gonna talk about Grady Dick. Ultimately, Grady Dick is definitely a fan favorite already, and I can't say I'm surprised. I'm not gonna get too much into why, but I feel like someone like Grady Dick, he already uh fits the profile of someone who would be a fan favorite. But that being said, like, from my perspective, I feel as though the Raptors fans gotta chill just a little bit. You got a good thing going here potentially with Grady Dick, but you gotta give the player some time to grow. Give him some time to come into his own. Like, what does that really say, in my opinion, when this is a rookie player, 13th overall pick. It's pretty high, but a rookie player, and the fans were just, and again, I know this is Vancouver, it wasn't like people from Toronto per se, but I'm just kind of putting it out there for now. Like, I was not really impressed with the fan reaction. I just feel like, respectfully, how you gonna cheer for this guy when he hasn't even done anything yet? You know what I mean? Like, you got to remember, this is a basketball team. There's a pecking order to things. And to me, cheering prematurely. Just like this guy didn't even raise up to shoot the ball. As soon as the ball touches his hands, you're cheering. Soon the fact that he wasn't in the rotation right away, it's like people were cheering for him to get minutes. And it's like, yo, like, as a franchise, like, we're not a gimmick. Like, everyone's got to earn their keep. Everyone's got to earn their spot. You know what I mean? Like, y'all wasn't keeping that same energy for Marquise. And I'll get to him in a minute, but keeping with this whole Grady Dick situation, I've been doing a lot of research and just examining public sentiment when you think about the discourse on Raptors basketball right now. And quite frankly, like, I'm seeing these concerns, and I'm just like, to me, these concerns are just erroneous. Like, how are you going to be mad that he wasn't higher up in the rotation? You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to be really mad at that? It's like, at the end of the day, I'll give you the 2 reasons, bar none, as to why anyone should not be mad that he was not higher up in the rotation. First of all, we're the Toronto Raptors. We got to start seeing ourselves as a world-class organization, which also means that everybody's got to earn their keep, all right? People don't just get to come in here on no hype train thing. That's not what we're doing, all right? You got to earn that keep. You got to get it out the mud, all right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, if, and I mean no disrespect to Grady Dick with what I'm about to say on the second reason here. At the end of the day, I'm really talking to the fans right now, because that's who I'm kind of pissed off at right now. The second reason, if Grady Dick is as good as y'all think he is, right? And for the record, I think he's going to be a great player too. I'll just throw that in there. But if he's as good as you think he is, y'all shouldn't even be worried. Y'all shouldn't even be complaining. Like, this guy is going to get his minutes, and he's going to work his way up, which is what he's supposed to do. Okay? Y'all are just like impatient, and it's disgusting. I think that's just like poor fandom, just to be so selective and have so much favoritism for a guy who has not done anything yet. I understand he can shoot. I liked his college highlights too, but let him work for it, man. Don't just spoon feed this kid the world, Anyways, that's enough towards the fan base. I'm going to pan it over to Marquise Noel a little bit, because, he got quite a bit of off-season attention, So, first of all, with Marquise Noel, I have a little bit of a critique directed towards him specifically. Marquise Noel was out here in the offseason. He said something that I didn't really like. It came off as a little arrogant. And at the end of the day, like, to a certain extent, generally speaking, to a certain extent, I understand where the sentiment's coming from, because, you got to have confidence in yourself as a baller. You got to really feel like you're the epitome and you're the greatest. Like, you got to feel that energy. But I also feel like some of these, to harken back to my Jamaican roots here, it's like some of these American players like take us for like a poppy show or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what, like, it's like, how dare you echo the sentiment that, oh yeah, I'm a be the greatest Raptor of all time. It's like, nah, brother. And I'm not saying that to disparage the energy, but it's like, you got to come in here and you got to show respect about the foundation that's been laid down before you even got here, right? It's like, you saying what you said, the reciprocal of the message kind of showcases that, you think the legacy that is Toronto Raptors and Toronto Raptors basketball is some kind of play ting, you know, and it's not no play ting. Like, so it's a real legacy that we're laying down here. You know, it's real work to be in the North, okay, and you really got to earn your keep. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'll say one thing complimentary before I get more into my critique. One complimentary thing that I saw about Marquise Noel is that he's pretty quick, and he is able to get to the basket, sort of. And after saying that, I have to really just say, at the end of the day, the highlights for the most part or the plays rather from Marquise Noel were not looking great. You know, too many times the defenders were cookieing him practically. You know, is taking the ball. He didn't look as strong with his handle. The other aspect of it too is that because he's an undersized guard, whenever he does come towards the basket, players are more emboldened to block his shot, right? So even if you can get within the vicinity of the basket, you know, I saw some players come up and block his shot, and that wasn't really looking too great either. But yeah, ultimately you gotta have a tighter handle, and you gotta not turn over the ball, because at the end of the day, you know, the way Marquise Noel played, and I know it's only one game, but the way he played, it's looking like it's a G League thing for you, you know, because there are quite a few point guards right now who could definitely curry the favor of the coach ahead of Marquise Noel, right? So, you know, he might have to spend some time in development, you know. And this is the thing, like, people come in with these grandiose statements and they get a swift reality check. But ultimately, I'm going to just circle back to that point. I'm happy with the starting lineup that I saw. And that just shows me that I'm already in the coach's head, you know? And only the scholar baller, right? Me, myself, only I could say that, because I didn't hear none of y'all out there in the Raptors space predict this starting lineup, okay? So that's me. These are my thoughts for this week. Definitely happy to see some Raptors content. I think it's great. Really enjoyed watching that game. Please like, comment, and subscribe. This is a new channel here, and it really, doing all of the aforementioned 3 things really helps us out in the algorithm. You know, we're really trying to talk Toronto Raptors basketball on a mandem level. And with that being said, saying it's a Raptors Ting, eh?